Walt Disney World has escaped the shackles of the reservation system and park hopping rules with new policies going into effect around the resort. Tiana's Bayou Adventure takes a step closer to completion, at least from the outside, as scaffolding continues to come down. Meanwhile, there are rumors of some interesting changes coming to Frontierland where Tiana is presently calling home. Will it stay that way? But we'll start with an update on Magic Key sales at Disneyland. They went on sale this morning, got off to their usual rocky start, but eventually sales started to happen. But as of this recording, all but the Magic Key have sold out on the first day. It's the fastest keys have ever sold out. And our expectation was that we would see a repeat of the last interval where at least the Inspire keys remained available for a longer while. We'll still have reservations to deal with at Disneyland, but soon they won't be a problem at Walt Disney World. As of Tuesday the 9th, the reservation system is over for date-based tickets. No reservation required, though the ticket is still attached to a specific date. If you wind up not being able to visit that day, the cost of that ticket can be applied to a new ticket purchase. Annual pass holders, though, are still required to make a reservation, but beginning on January 11th, good-to-go dates will begin to appear on the calendar. These dates, as the name suggests, will not require the pass holder to make a reservation. They are good to go. An example calendar shows what this might look like, though I have to admit this looks more confusing than perhaps it should. The small green dots indicate if reservations are available for a given day. The large green circles indicate those days that no reservation is required. Guests are good to go. It is yet to be determined how accurate or representative this specific graphic is. We'll have to stay tuned on Thursday to get a better picture. But one thing we can observe today is that the reservation calendar for annual pass holders hasn't been a problem for some time. As of this recording, not a single date for the next 3 months is sold out. In other words, pass holders, they still have to check the calendar first to see if the day they want to go is, in fact, good to go, which winds up being just one less step than having to make an actual reservation, which sort of minimizes the usefulness of the good to go date policy. And it would seem this is why Disney has chosen not to cling to the reservation system at Walt Disney World, where they definitely are clinging at Disneyland. The reservation system is virtually inconsequential to the park-going process in Florida, whereas at Disneyland, significantly more awareness and vigilance is required, meaning it's a more useful tool to Disneyland executives than those at Walt Disney World. It's as if it doesn't exist there to begin with. Nevertheless, this is a positive move toward eliminating the reservation system, a small step toward a larger goal for all parks on both coasts. Also good news for Walt Disney World, all guests, not just annual pass holders, is the removal of all park hopping rules. As of Tuesday, there are none. You can park hop from any park to any park at any time. It's a huge relief, I'm sure, for such a bothersome rule, but one that was made necessary by the reservation system to begin with. Where we are often asked, when will the park hopping rules be lifted at Disneyland? I always have answered, just as soon as the reservation system is lifted. If there is a reservation system, you must have park hopping rules. It's inherent with the system. Disney's move to end those rules on Tuesday at Walt Disney World confirms that. So great news for Walt Disney World guests, no matter how you look at that. Also good news for Walt Disney World guests. Also on January 11th, Disney World will begin selling a discounted ticket to Florida residents. Thursday, Disney will offer a 2-day ticket for $199. That's roughly a $50 savings over the typical cost of a 2-day ticket during the effective period. Guests can add a 3rd day for another $20 or $219 total, putting your total savings over $200 or more depending on the days chosen. This offer is for tickets used between January 11th and March 15th, and they will require a reservation. We'll go next to Frontierland in the Magic Kingdom, where we have video of the most recent updates being made at Tiana's Bayou Adventure. The Magic Kingdom is about 6 months ahead of the progress being made at Disneyland, so spoiler alert for those of you who don't want to see how things might wind up looking at Tiana's Bayou Adventure. With that said, we'll continue There is still a lot of scaffolding visible from ground level, but what is becoming more and more evident is the color and texture of the mountain. The landscaping is starting to dominate the picture here. Here's the top of the mountain, almost completely removed of scaffolding, revealing lush green foliage all over the mountain with some pink and white floral highlights. From the end of the drop here, we get a straight shot into the front of the mountain, and it's impressive how much of the facade is covered now in this vegetation. If we go to the mountain's right, we get a better idea of how the rest of the mountain looked in the past. Mostly earthy rock with some green accents. And it would seem perhaps that as the mountain approaches ground level, the goal was to get it to blend in more with the Frontierland aesthetic. That is, orange, dirt, and rock. Something closer perhaps to Big Thunder, which is right next door. We'll get back to that in a minute, which is interesting. Work is still underway on the ground near the Frontierland station of the Disneyland Railroad. A peek through the walls along ground level. New brickwork being applied. The texture and personality continuing from the previous updates that we've seen on the guest walkways. And there's a lot of character being used here, giving this part of Frontierland its own look and appeal. We mentioned earlier, though, the apparent desire to create a visual transition on the mountain as your gaze goes from the top of the mountain to ground level. All that lush green landscape is not something one would consider typical of a frontier land. There is rumor that Disney has plans to evolve at least this part of Frontierland into something else. An ongoing rumor for a while now is that Pecos Bill will be rethemed sometime in the near future into a Tiana-themed restaurant, much like what has already happened at Disneyland with Tiana's Palace. This retheme could be part of a larger effort to retheme a larger part of Frontierland into a new New Orleans Square type land. More than just a rumor, though. Tuesday, Disney themselves hinted at more changes to come to Frontierland. In an update covering the changes coming to the Country Bear Jamboree, Disney stated at the end of that report that they look forward to sharing more announcements about Frontierland, which is curious in that that statement was made within the context of growth and investment planned for theme parks. Meanwhile, Braden at Mickey Views intimates that this is more than just speculation. Pecos Bills will become a Tiana restaurant, and if the money and permits line up in Disney's favor, something Frontierland-ish behind Big Thunder. In so doing, this would allow Disney to reshape what is known as Frontierland, allowing them more flexibility to redevelop the main street in Frontierland, heading into what will be Tiana's Bayou Adventure. At minimum, per Braden, which by the way, best updates in the business from Walt Disney World. Amazing work he does, and I trust his reporting implicitly. Per Braden, at minimum, a mini New Orleans themed area is in the park's future, and that would include obviously the mountain and the neighboring restaurant. But consider this is my own speculation. Disney recently announced that there is a new Pirates themed restaurant headed to Adventureland. The timing of this is interesting. Now, it hasn't been revealed yet where this restaurant will be or what it might be taking over, but I mean, it could be headed to Tortuga Tavern. That makes a lot of sense. It's located just on the opposite side of Pecos Bill, as it turns out. Could Disney be looking to extend the New Orleans theme along those lines to include pirates and the new restaurant? Keep in mind, it's not required thematically. Pirates of the Caribbean does not have to exist inside a New Orleans themed land, obviously, but it is consistent with how things are done at Disneyland. So while it's something to consider, it may still be impractical due to how connected Pirates is presently to the rest of Adventureland and how disconnected it is, relatively speaking, to existing Frontierland. But food for thought. That's all for now, and thank you very much for watching, everybody. Be sure to subscribe to this channel for more updates as they become available. Follow us on Instagram at _freshbaked, on Twitter at Fresh Baked Disney, that's fresh with no E, and on TikTok at Fresh Baked Disney. And if you like our show and want to show your support, please do consider joining our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/freshbaked. Otherwise, thanks again for watching, everybody. We love you. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. And Fresh Baked.